Ladies and gents, hello and welcome. My name, of course, is Potato. This is Unite the Anglosphere in Hearts of Iron 4. I'm Potato, and in the last episode, we pretty much set up for everything, and everything looks pretty darn good, except one thing, and that one thing is that I have forgotten about one key bit of research that we need to get, and that is, of course, the industry area. Actually, technically, the industry and the engineering tabs. I did indeed forget about them in all of my excitement for talking about boats, but it doesn't particularly matter. There's construction over here, which is pretty darn good, and then there's also basic machine tools. I think we'll probably start with basic machine tools and progress to construction. It's always good to have at least one of your research tabs devoted to the industry and the engineering area. It just seems like a no-brainer to me. Also, let's sort of talk a little bit about our strategy for now. We've got the limited rearmament. If we want to progress down this path, I do believe, yeah, we're pretty much going to need world tension to be above 5% for these. Nothing for this, but I don't really care about motorized stuff, to be honest. It's not really my focus at this moment in time. And then for general rearmament, we need world tension to be above 10%. So we're going to have to wait until that happens. So I suspect that what we're going to do is we're going to do limited rearmament. And this is, of course, assuming that nothing wild happens. We can also do reinforce the empire, because that doesn't actually require anything really, and it is, of course, mutually exclusive with revisit the colonial policy. But of course, we're not really interested in giving up any of our colonies, not in this playthrough anyway. So I'm not even gonna contemplate clicking this button here. No siree. We're going to be reinforcing the empire, and we're going to be going down this path. And actually, interestingly enough, it leads into a bunch of good stuff, which will help us with our navy, battleship focus, carrier focus. You get the picture. All of that good stuff. It's all pretty darn good. Anyway, so there's that. That's an option, and then we've also got the a change in course policy, which, as I was about to say, only becomes relevant after King George V dies. So, now that he's dead, we've got stuff to do. We got stuff to play around with. We're going to finish off limited rearmament, obviously. I think that that's a pretty darn good pretty darn good thing to do. But a change in course is now completely valid. It's interesting to note that once we click on the King's Party, everything will change. But it's also worth keeping in mind is that we're not immediately going to be able to do the King's Party national focus, because, as you can see, the very top, the very first requirement, one of 3 requirements, is Edward VIII married Wallace Simpson. Now, I believe that there is an event chain which will carry itself down the river and deal with itself eventually. But the fact of the matter is that we're not immediately going to be able to jump into this. So we're going to have to consider what we want to do. What have we got here? This is a decision that is available. The Germans are using the Dutch as the back door, circumventing our blockade by using neutral Dutch shipping ports to pass through trade. We wish to make our blockade more successful. We must bend the Dutch to our will. Nice. I mean, I think that this is definitely a thing that we should do. It is going to cost us 10 political power, but unfortunately the Dutch are not going to... They're not going to bend to our will at the moment. We have 0 influence. We have 0 trade influence points over them. I'm going to do it. Even though we're not going to receive any political power at the moment, there's not really anything else that we need to spend our political power on at the moment. Speaking of political power, let's sort of chat a little bit about stability and political power and all of this stuff up here briefly. Stability's changed a little bit since the last time that I played with it. We were getting a plus 15% stability bonus from our leader, and that was King George V. We were getting plus 15% stability bonus from him. Now, unfortunately, because Edward is terrible, we're getting 0.1% minus stability per week, which is pretty garbage, actually. And that, of course, affects political power gain, consumer goods factory usage, factory output, and dockyard output. So we've just basically lost a 5% hit for nothing there, pretty much. Which I'm pretty bummed about, to be honest. Also, something else that I didn't really address in the last episode, but is something that we're definitely going to have to think about, is getting a ship designer, or should I say, getting a chief of the navy. We want to start building. We want to start building stuff that will benefit. That will benefit us navally. So therefore, we need to try and make sure that we are recruiting a whole bunch of people who are Navy focused. Also, we'll want to try and get a ship designer. We want to get perhaps, you know, something that will benefit battleships, I suspect, because primarily I think that we'll be going for a battleship-centric build, battleship-centric composition. I imagine that we're probably going to be going for battle fleet concentration in the naval doctrine tab here, as opposed to convoy sailing or submarine operations. Either or, really. I mean, anything is decent. I mean, they're all bonuses, but I think that battleship is probably just something that I'm most interested in doing. Of course, any suggestions, please do feel free to drop them in the comments down below. I think it's time for a change in course. Grand. So, we're going to be getting political power gain plus 10%, weekly war support plus 0.2%, daily communism support plus 0.05, daily fascism 0.05, daily support for unaligned 0.05. And that's all going to be for a year. Fine, this is only going to take 35 days to actually bash out, so that's going to take absolutely no time at all. We're going to be getting our... Oh, hold on a minute. Hold on a pea-pickin' minute. Japan abandons the naval treaty. Oh my goodness, I haven't even had the opportunity to talk about this. Escalator clause invoked. Oh my goodness. One of the signatories of the treaty has decided not to follow the treaty any longer and is even now probably building larger and more powerful ships. Thankfully, a clause in the treaty permits us to automatically invoke an escalator clause, which allows us to relax the restrictions on ship size and armaments in this case. Ooh, which will allow us to get carrier max cost plus 1,000, cruiser max cost plus 700, and heavy ship max cost plus 2,000. And that will come into effect in 365 days. Okay, so the second naval conference is going to be in 46 days. We're able to withdraw from the naval treaties after the set. So the second London Naval Disarmament Conference is underway, or more than 20% world tension. I suspect that we're probably going to reach more than 20% world tension before the other thing happens. Whatever the case, it doesn't actually particularly matter for all our intents and purposes. Also, we need to start looking at our dockyard policy. At the moment, or in the last episode, I sort of put all of these onto infinite production cycles. I think I'm actually going to revert that back, purely because I want to streamline our production, and we can stick them all into a couple of production lines. We should probably try and keep, you know, a cruiser production line open. We'll keep a submarine production line open, keep a destroyer production line open, and that's it. And there's no real need to have so many production lines up and running. We can just, you know, we can stick them all down into one, really. It's not a problem to do at all. Speaking of production-wise, at the moment we're hitting our cap on pretty much everything. That's to be completely expected. We do need to assign a couple more dockyards because, of course, we just finished building some, which is very, very exciting indeed. No reason not to stick them into the ones that are going to be the production lines that are going to be kept open. Fine, great. Anyway, what I was going to say was that we should probably have a little look at our logistics. So support equipment, we're still a little bit behind on support equipment, but inventory equipment, we're actually in a pretty darn good place. What we should do, though, is go back to inventory equipment, and yeah, okay, we've actually already assigned a whole bunch of extra factories onto there. So as new factories come into being, as new military factories come into being, of course, civilian factories will not come into produce inventory equipment. They will just go straight into producing level 1 inventory equipment. Pretty darn easy. Alright, decisions are available. At the moment, we can demand some more we can demand some political power, and I think that we'll actually get it now because we've already invested some trade influence points. The way that this works is kind of a little bit confusing, but that's my understanding anyway. It costs 10 political power to actually make this decision, but I believe that we should get 10 political power back since we already have more influence than the Germans in the Netherlands. So that's my rationale for how that's going to work. Also, speaking of trade, it gives me a little bit of an opportunity to talk a little bit about trade and also where I see us trying to go. So at the moment we've got a little bit of a presence in the Middle East. I think we want to try and secure that presence, I think is probably the best way to put it. Submarine hull is complete. Take this opportunity to go and get something else. We obviously can't build anything from the 1940s yet. Let's go and do something in industry. Let's go and do construction level 1. That seems like a fairly good idea. Yeah, so the Middle East. We want to try and do something in the Middle East. Now, it's unfortunate, actually. It's a really unfortunate situation that we're not able to get access to... Where is it? It is... I'll pause for a second. It's really unfortunate that we're not able to have the secure Iraq, secure Iran, embargo the USSR. This, you know, this side of things. Because we're just not able to. It's all gone. We do not meet the requirements. It's a real crying shame that we're not able to do that. Also, as you can see, I cannot start researching the King's party as of yet. Now, we can organize the black shirts and we can do the concessions to the trade unions, but it doesn't particularly matter because we don't care about that. That's not something I'm interested in even slightly. I'm not interested in becoming a fascist. I'm not interested in becoming a communist. I'm interested in becoming unaligned. So let's choose something new. We've got that reinforce the empire policy, which I talked about already. Or we've got motorized army. I don't care about motorized army. That's just it's just nonsense. Reinforce the empire it is. Let's do it. Okay, so changing course, as I've already mentioned, is already having an effect, which is very, very exciting indeed. So theoretically, we're going to be getting our 10 political power back in a couple of days. Don't screw me on this video game. I'm pretty sure that I explained it correctly. No, apparently I didn't. Apparently we just now have 10 trade influence points. Who honestly knows how this works? I've just invested 20 political power for absolutely no idea. No idea what's going on there. Literally no idea what's going on there. But the Netherlands, I'm not too worried about the Netherlands. What I am interested in doing is having a little look at the Netherlands. Nice. We'll talk a little bit about that in a second. What the heck? What icon is that? That's horrific. It's a horrific icon. Anyway, this is the brand new Dutch focus tree, and holy cow, this looks absolutely huge. This is the 4th ally. Interesting. Interesting. Imperial ambitions, naval heritage, war on pacifism. This is an absolutely gargantuan focus tree. Holy cow, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. I did not realize that it was that big. All right, let me go and have a little look at what we want to research. We finished researching the brand new battleship. What's this? Super heavy battleship hull? Yes, sign me up to that. Something else we've got to bear in mind is that we don't actually have any naval experience at the moment. So, yeah, it's not like we can really change the designs of any ships that we've got. So, we're kind of just stuck with the ships that we have until later on. Speaking of, unfortunately, we don't have any naval points to spend on speeding up some of this doctrine research, but that's not a problem. As I sort of talked about a little bit earlier, we want to go for battle fleet concentration purely because I think that we want to build a battleship-centric navy. So that's very much something to consider. And then what else? I mean, can we actually build battleships now? I'm not sure that we can. One or more of the required modules is missing. Can you tell me which module is missing? I would love to know what module is missing. I mean, I know that we can build the Admiral class. That's not a problem. We need something for this. But I don't know what it actually is that we require. It's cool, though. It's very, very cool indeed. I would love to create a variant, but unfortunately, we can't actually do that because we just don't have... We don't have any of the stuff that we need. I guess... Here we go. Let's have a little look at this. Heavy battery. I mean... Unfortunately, we can't actually replace anything. But would we be able to build this if we could? Yeah, I mean, look, we need so many. We're going to need a heck of a lot of points in order to make this whole thing work. Yeah, so I mean, having a brief overview, it's going to take us a heck of a lot of effort in order to get this ship shape, so to speak. So we're going to have to keep that in mind. But yeah, basically we can't build battleships at the moment, which is kind of to be expected, honestly. We can literally only build early cruiser hulls. We can't even build submarines at the moment, can we? No, we're missing too many parts. And that's not about to change. That's not about to change anytime soon. It doesn't particularly matter. Let's have a little look. Improved torpedo launcher. I want to really focus on naval stuff, so it would be logical to continue investing in naval technologies. But at the same time, I'm also conscious of the fact that I do not want to really devote my entire life to just doing Navy stuff. It is 1936 though, so you know what? Let's start working on a depth charge thrower. Maybe the Germans will get U-boats. Maybe they won't. Who knows? Who honestly knows what the Germans are going to do? No one really knows. The Second London Naval Treaty signed. All right. Sure, I'll take that. The escalator clause is still on course to be invoked, and that's presumably against Japan. Or well, it's not presumably against Japan. It's because of Japan that it's going to be invoked, but still it's going to end up happening. We're about to cap out on the amount of fuel that we have, or the maximum. We're about to cap out on the maximum amount of fuel, which is quite exciting. And it will give us the opportunity to maybe invest in a couple of fuel silos. Fuel capacity. Yeah, so with just a couple of fuel silos, we basically increase our capacity to store fuel by quite a significant degree, actually. It wouldn't exactly be the silliest thing in the world to do. Yeah. But what I am conscious of the fact, that we also need to start building civilian factories. I think we're going to queue up a whole bunch of civilian factories. There we go. Because of course we can convert civilian to military factories at a time of our choosing later on. And that is indeed what I think that we're going to do. So we'll finish building out these, or will we? Maybe we'll bump up a couple of civilian factories that should be built. Thing is that naval dockyards are a heck of a lot cheaper to build, so that's kind of nice. It is also technically it's cheaper just to build direct military factories. Although it's not cheaper to build military factories and then convert them to civilian factories. But it is cheaper to build just straight up military factories if that's what you want to build. So that might be something to consider going forward. I'm not sure that it really makes that much of a difference though. So you're going to be completed in January of 37. Okay, fine, whatever. Oh. An abdication crisis. If he will not change his mind, the king must abdicate. That's not happening. Not on my watch. The king must stay. The king must marry. For some time, King Edward has entertained the hopes to marry American Wallace Simpson. A constitutional crisis has now arisen as Mrs. Simpson is not only divorced from her previous husband, but in point of fact still married to her current husband, presently pursuing a second divorce. General outrage has ensued on the grounds that as king and being the head of the Church of England, Edward cannot marry a divorcee. The king, however, has made it abundantly clear that he is very much in love with Mrs. Simpson and intends to marry her regardless of the opinions of his governments or his subjects. As such, only 3 options remain open to him. The British government and the governments of the Dominions have already stated that any alternative to abdication would be unacceptable, and repercussions of trying to force through a marriage, even an attempted compromise, would likely be dire, not only for Britain itself, but also for its ties to the Commonwealth. As the king's closest advisors continue their attempts to convince him, the public awaits with bated breath the resolution of this conflict between king and his cabinet. I mean, look, I'm not willing to settle on a morganatic marriage. I think we need to insist on a royal marriage. I think there's only one way to do a royal wedding, and that is with a royal marriage. Boy, oh boy, let me tell you, there's only one way to do it, and that is with a royal marriage. How on earth does this decision actually work? I have literally no idea. Literally no idea. Literally no idea what. Yeah, I'm just going to keep on clicking the button and hope eventually I get some political power out of it. Grow rubber plantations in Nigeria. I mean, don't get me wrong. I am very, very interested in doing that. At 10 rubber production. What is our rubber production at the moment? I mean, our rubber production is not really something that terribly worries me. Reinforce the empire. Lovely. You know what? I'll take that decision. Sure, I guess. Spend some political power there. Bish bash bosh. Let's select a national focus. Reinforce the empire. Service overseas. Army experience +5. Navy experience +25. Nice. Nice. That will start us down the road of being able to actually make some ships. Also, worth noting, drawing attention to the fact that we now have a full stockpile of fuel, which is lovely. So for that reason, I guess we can just drive the ships around a little bit. Parliament opposes the marriage. What do politicians know about love anyway? Perhaps people are right, the king should abdicate. We have got this far. We can't give up now. What do politicians know about love anyway? Nothing. All right, we'll drive the ships around for a bit. You know what? Maybe we'll just put them on like patrol or something. We'll put them on patrol in this area. It's only a couple of destroyers. Destroyers are tiny anyway. It's not even got an effect on the fuel, or it won't have an effect on the fuel. I think it'll be totally fine. Yeah, so the Navy's current consumption is 235, and the daily gain is 1.3k. So as you can see, we're actually making way more fuel than we have right now, which is fine. It's not really an issue for us. We're quite happy just to sit back and watch that happen. We also need to bear in mind convoys. We need to make sure that we actually are building convoys, because if we don't build convoys, then that will probably escalate into an actual problem when, of course, we do not have perhaps the capacity to get free convoy access into the UK. But that's something that we're going to have to deal with in the next episode. Ladies and gents, thank you very, very much for watching. My name, of course, has been Open Potato. This has been Hearts of Iron for Unite the Anglosphere. I'll see you next time. Bye.